In this episode of Paths to the Draft, we're going to be looking at Tom McGuane. Let's get into it. Now, I was debating whether or not I should do a Tom McGuane video on Paths to the Draft because of Collingwood not nominating him for father-son selection. And we'll talk a little bit about that, a lot about that later on in the video. But I thought, no, look, let's do a video on him because we've been following him closely on this channel, especially for the last year, maybe year and a half or thereabouts, because he has had some extraordinary performances, especially playing for the Western Jets, a couple for Vic Metro as well. And he has not fallen off, but, well, definitely fallen out of favour with the Pies, you would think, that, if we had to sort of bid on him. But even with regards to draft ranks, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But I thought Tommy McGuane, incredible, right? He's been destined to go to Collingwood probably since he was born and started to play football, because his dad was so, just such a legend for the club, 1990 premiership player as well. And all Collingwood supporters have been following Tommy McGuane so closely. And we're like, yes, we get to have Nick and Tommy in the middle for, 10, 15 years. It's going to be incredible. And then Collingwood really blindsided us, and everyone was really up in arms about it. So we're going to deep dive into Tommy's year, see what happened, hear from Collingwood, hear from other sources and stuff like that, and get into it. So Tommy McGuane in 2025 played for a couple of different teams, right? Vic Metro, Western Jets, and he had a stint in Collingwood's VFL side to see how he sort of lines up with these bigger bodies. Now, Tommy McGuane, 178 centimeters, very skinny frame, and what he lacks for in like sort of strength and build and height and speed, he makes up for with just his footy acumen. This kid is really, really smart, puts himself in really good positions, and although he does want to be an inside mid, thereabouts. He does play on the outside a lot, plays on the wing sometimes as well, can go to halfback and go to half forward, right? So very versatile, and that's what we saw in the three different teams. In the Western Jets, he was averaging 28 disposals a game. So Tommy can really, really find the ball, and he doesn't just find the ball, he uses it really well as well. When he moved to the under 18s Vic Metro side, he started on the wing, so it wasn't straight in the middle. Didn't get the same high numbers that he was getting, but, there was a couple of games where he was kicking 2 goals, a couple of games where he was getting 25 disposals. So he was still there, but just not as prominent as he was with the Western Jets. Now, that's probably come into Collingwood's thinking a little bit, just with the bigger bodies, and he wasn't really getting himself into the positions that he was with the Western Jets. And then he plays for Collingwood's VFL side. So all in all, he played 3 games for Collingwood's VFL side against Frankston, Williamstown, and Port Melbourne. In those 3 games, he averaged 9 disposals a game, only took 3 marks in all of those 3 games combined, had 2 tackles in all of those games combined, and kicked 1 goal, 1 in all of those 3 games combined. So you can see that when he got in with those bigger bodies to see what he could do, he was sort of held back by his own lack of speed thereof, but also, just his skinnier frame against the bigger body. So that could come into Collingwood's thinking as well a little bit. Like I said earlier, his footy IQ is just through the roof. Kind of like Nick, where he can put himself into situations, or when he has the ball, he can hit players that you probably wouldn't usually or typically see. Those type of kicks or those type of handballs. And Tommy McGuane, his dad, Mick, is just was an incredible player, and even more incredible coach, especially for Keeler, won the premiership, etc., etc. And Tommy was a part of that as well. Now, that footy IQ, yes, you can teach it, but in more ways than one, it's unteachable. It's just natural talent. And Tommy McGuane has that in spades. And growing up, like me, growing up as a short kid, you have to find other avenues of things to be good at. And that's what would have happened with Tommy. He, didn't have the height, but God, he just smashes it in that footy IQ and can use the ball. Yes, he's an accumulator. He can rack up touches and touches and touches. But sometimes racking up, and like we've seen in the past with some of these guys that we're looking at in this part of the draft series, you can rack them up. But if you can't use the ball, what's the point of getting 30 touches and only 12 of them are going to be effective? Tommy McGuane makes sure to make every touch count, and God, does he make them count. Another strength is his running capacity. Now, very different to speed. He's not overly quick, but his running capacity, he's an endurance machine, and that's why he's getting so much of the ball. He can work on the inside, can work on the outside, can link up play, gets the 1-2 off, and that's why he's, yeah, like I said, getting all of those touches and disposals, but uses them well. So the endurance ability and his footy IQ go hand in hand. The other thing is, just speaking about hands, his clean hands. Very, very clean with the ball. Rookie Me Central says he's clean at the contest, but just as influential on the outside. We'll look at what Mick said a little bit or soon. Tommy does want to get on the inside. Eventually, will need to bulk up a little bit, but does a lot of his work at the Western Jets on the inside of the packs. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at his draft range as of right now, but also look retrospectively at where ESPN had him in their power rankings for most of the year. Now, cast your minds back to probably earlier this year, towards the end of last year. Even Cal Toomey was saying that Tommy McGuane could be a top 15 prospect, right? And if you look at Jasper Chalapa's draft rankings from May on ESPN, friend of the channel, we had him on a couple of weeks ago. He had Tommy McGuane in his power rankings at a 50, ranked 17, and this is what he had to say about him. He said, McGuane is diminutive in stature and lacks the high-end athleticism of other top midfield prospects. None of that will matter, though, if he can translate his smarts and class to the next level, which is that footy IQ and acumen that we were talking about earlier. The son of Pi is great. McGuane has a sharp left boot and brilliant work rate to get from contest to contest, racking up the ball and retaining possession with clean hands out of congestion. He has shades of Murphy Reed, which is incredible because Murphy Reed, his first year, his year 2025 was just second to none. Phenomenal. Then if you move over to July in power rankings, so that's May to July, Jasper had Tommy at 26. And then as you move to August, September, October, November, Tommy McGuane doesn't feature in the top 50 at all. And you can see that kind of reflects, unfortunately, how Tommy's season was going. Then if you flip over to Zero Hanger, they have Tommy McGuane at the moment as his draft range being pick 50 to rookie. So that is probably why Collingwood have said what they have said to him. But which it kind of makes you wonder if he's not sort of being ranked in these top 50s or anything like that. You probably wouldn't have had to have bid or had to have matched a bid on him if he's coming after 50, because we do have those late picks. But in saying that, let's look at what Justin Lepich had to say about Tommy McGuane.
Oh, Tom, yeah, well, I guess when we do our draft board, we know how many picks are going to be in the draft and where they sit. Like, we haven't even spoke to our other academy father-son boys either, but just given the sensitivities, given his father's a champion of our club, we wanted to hit it up as soon as we knew, to give the family the respect and Tom, I guess, the readiness for it. So that's why we chose to do it a bit earlier than normal.
So now Tommy McGuane is on the open market. And I remember when this sort of news came out, I was real harsh towards the Pies and letting Tommy do this, and you're letting him down, you're failing him. But then I took the emotion out of it, took a couple of steps back and really assessed the situation. And what they're doing is actually a good thing for Tommy, because Mick McGuane was saying that he hadn't interviewed with any other club, but now that the clubs know that he's not going to be a father-son pick, he can interview with the 17 other clubs, and he has had interviews with other clubs according to Mick McGuane's article over on Code Sports. So Collingwood are giving him the opportunity to be able to explore other avenues into the AFL, but also kind of saying, hey, but if you're there late and we have a late pick or a rookie selection, we'll more than happily take you on. We'll more than happily open our arms because we love you. But we're just letting you know that if a bid comes on, if someone ranks you in the top 25, we just don't have you there. So we won't be matching that bid, and we don't want to sort of embarrass you on the night. And it could have gone that way. They could have just said, Collingwood could have said on the night, no, we're not matching that bid, instead of doing it like this. Because you remember, that happened to Joel Cochran as well. We nominated him. Sydney had the opportunity to match the bid, and they said no. So I wonder which is the lesser of two evils: coming out publicly and saying you're not going to nominate for the father, we're not going to nominate for the father's son, or not matching the pick and the bid. live. So I don't know what the lesser of two evils. Let me know your thoughts down below. But it does give Tommy McGuane the opportunity now to look elsewhere, and hopefully he does land at the Pies with a later selection. It would, I just really hope it does. I think not a fairy tale, and he would have to work hard, and I think the Pies will work hard to sort of mend a couple of bridges as well, but that's yet to be seen. All in all, I love Tommy McGuane. I love his game. The footy IQ is just probably some of the most second to none work that I've seen covering the draft these last couple of weeks and seeing all these players, reading all these articles and stuff like that. I love what he can do. Yes, he wants to be an inside mid, and we're sort of looking for that. Little bit smaller than the other inside mids going around that second, third round in the draft, like we have talked about earlier. But I think if you're patient with Tommy and a bit of a prospect player, he can be anything you want him to be. And I really do hope he gets that chance in the AFL system. The decision not to commit to Tommy McGuane might look like a shitty one from the Pies, but I think it's the best course of action. And like I said, he could still end up at the Pies. But I leave the question over to you. Did Collingwood make the right decision not nominating Tommy McGuane as a father-son pick? If there is a pick we have later on and Tommy's still on the board, would you take him with a late pick or a rookie selection? Let me know your thoughts down below. But until then, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets, and until next time, double shackers, I'll swoop you later.